Hi, my name's James. I own the Blending Room coffee roastery in Hull, and today I'm going to be talking through some coffees that I've received as samples. I thought this would be a really great opportunity to describe how I go about buying coffee for our company, and this was a good exercise more so because the importer that has sent us some samples to taste is not a company that I particularly purchase from a lot. And also it's an origin that I don't really cup much as well. So I just thought it'd be a great example of being able to walk through what our processes are, how I go about coffee cupping, etc. So what have we got on the table? We've got 3 coffees sent to us by Raw Material. Raw Material are an importer and exporter. They do an awful lot of work in various different countries around the world with specificities in certain places like Mexico, and it's Mexico that I'm looking at today. I'll get into bag one. One of the processes we do is to try to standardize everything so that whenever I'm tasting a coffee, the actual tasting protocol are exactly the same every single time. So on this basis, we have a vessel that is exactly the same volume, and there is a certain amount of coffee that we would use for that volume. And in this case, I use 11 grams of coffee. So I'm just going to weigh that out, make sure that I have 11 grams. Need to be precise. Next process is that I'm going to grind them. I've got our EK43 grinder set to one side. There will be one grind size that I will use to make sure that each grind is exactly the same per cup, so that I can assume that the grind size isn't making an impact on the flavor inside the cup. And the differences, if there are any, are only because of the coffee within the cups. So now I've got 3 samples ground. The next process would be that I would assess their aroma. Okay. Interesting. So what have I got on the table? All 3 have got a pretty prominent sweetness. I would say lot 78412. That is a less prominent sweetness, less prominent fruity characteristic on the nose. There are some sort of chocolates, that type of thing. Maybe some caramel characters. A touch of fruit, a touch of maybe a herbally note as well. Now this natural process coffee 9111, it's a bit more winey, like a winey note on the nose. I don't want to say ferment, but the natural process is definitely giving me riper fruits, and I'm imagining red wine, but a high alcohol content of red wine. This one, 7824, I have to say, it's really beautiful on the nose. There's very prominent honeyed note. So what I'm going to do next is then apply water. I'm like when I was weighing out the coffee, the dry coffee, what I'm going to do is weigh the wet coffee as well, because I want to make sure that each cup is standard. So we have the standard amount of water in each of the cups for it to be a fair assessment. So let's pour some water on, as close as I can possibly get it. Right, 160, next one. Next one, 3rd and final. Okay. There is a layer of ground coffee that will sit above the liquid layer, and it will form a crust. And what we call the break, we are physically breaking that crust layer. And as we do so, we release some of the trapped aroma compounds that would be under that layer. It's a really important way of being able to assess what the aromatic profile would be for those people who are going to be consuming the coffee at home. So what I'm going to now do, as I just mentioned, I'm just going to quickly pass through, have a sniff, see if I can spot anything that is an improvement or a detraction from the dry aromatic profile. I'll make some notes as well. Okay, so going back to the sweetness, because I think sweetness is a really important thing when it comes to coffee. Certainly when you get to the brewed end of the spectrum, yeah, it's great on a cupping table for the coffees to be poppy and acidic and fruit forward. But actually, sometimes that doesn't necessarily transfer well into a brewed beverage. That's where our consumers are going to be set. So I always try to look for balance. But sweetness or perceived sweetness is a really important thing in my buying strategy. There are caramels with this, which are really very pleasant. The sweetness has come through with that as well. There's still some fruits, there's quite a lot of chocolate, but actually looking at the color of the coffee, we can see that that's quite a dark roast versus the rest. And this maybe is a little less prominent than the previous. So what I'm going to do now, as we've just got through to our 4 minutes, is I'm going to break the crust. So what I'm doing here is I'm depressing the spoon into the mass of the coffee. I'm making sure that I break the crust, and each time I move through, I'm trying to agitate the grounds of coffee that have settled to the bottom. But I'm doing so in a purposeful way and with exactly the same number of circulations. So I've done 3 here, 3 here. At this point, we would need to wait until about 10 minutes, maybe 11 minutes. It all depends on how warm or cool it is in the roastery. We want to make sure that this isn't too hot that it burns you when you go through the tasting. Okay, so we're now ready to start tasting. Some minutes have passed. Today it's fairly warm in the roastery, so I've let 11 and a half minutes go past. So what I need, my cupping spoon and a spittoon. I'm going to be spitting the coffee out as I pass through. I could ingest it, but actually you could end up consuming quite a lot of coffee. So let's go through these. I'll pass through these first, and then I'll discuss what I'm tasting. So, let's talk about what I'm tasting. So this coffee here has got quite a pronounced acidity versus the other 3. I'm tasting lemons, that type of acidity. It's a medium body, light medium body. I'm thinking like yellowy, fleshy fruit, maybe some citrus, biscuity type of finish to it. Definitely yellow fruits. Maybe a little yellow apple, maybe bridging into that citrus. The sort of like caramelly that I may have smelt on the nose is a little bit present in the cup, but it's predominantly that citrus and biscuit thing. Do I like it? We'll see. We'll come back to it. I'll let it seep in to my brain as I pass through these cups, because not only have I got to ask myself, do I like it? I've got to think, will my customers enjoy it? Is it something that is an extension of the things that I enjoy drinking? Because I buy coffees that I enjoy drinking. So I'll come back to that. So next is the natural. And that winey character has really come through. It's pretty nice. I'm not a fan per se of naturals. I find them a little fruity, a little fermenty. They're great on the cupping table because they are so different from washed coffees. But I tend to find they're a little less refined when it gets into a brewed scenario. That punchiness of fruit can sometimes be fun on your first cup, but maybe as you get through to your 10th cup from one bag, I would struggle with those. So it's a coffee that I would consume less often. So I'm thinking maybe some cherry characteristics, winey. There is a bit of a chocolate finish. It's a little dry on my palate, but I think that's to do with the roast degree. Unfortunately, when I opened the bag, there was a little bit of oil on the coffee, which would suggest that it could have been roasted a little too dark, which it was, certainly for a cupping, and also there's possibly a little bit too much heat. So what I mean by heat is the application. The heat was maybe a little on the aggressive side, which can in turn pull out the oils of the coffee. That being said, it's still a great coffee. Do I see value in it for our customers? Yeah, probably not. Mainly centered around the fact that I don't really enjoy drinking natural coffees. And if I was going to choose a natural coffee, it has to be an outstanding one. This doesn't present itself as an outstanding natural coffee, albeit a very pleasant one to drink. So third and final cup. Now, this really is quite a beautiful cup of coffee, and one that I would most certainly be happy to purchase. Those honeyed notes come through. It's a very well balanced coffee. Much like the first cup, I'm thinking yellow, fleshy fruits. There's a little bit of citrus, but less than that. The fruit composition, yeah, definitely is yellow, maybe a little bit of stone fruit, but it's this honeyed sweetness that I really enjoy. Would make a very nice filter coffee. We'll do one more pass. Just to see if the coffees open up a little more as they cool. Sometimes you'll find that as the coffees cool, if you may be able to taste through some of the off notes, if there are any off notes. It is something that as the coffees cool, your papillae on your tongue are able to perceive a little more flavor and taste, based on them not struggling with the heat. So you should and you could be able to taste a little bit more as the coffee cools. So interestingly, as the coffee has cooled, this first sample, 78412, has actually really begun to open up. And whereas when it was hot, it was a bit unidimensional. Yeah, that one-dimensionality of acidity, finish, has begun to, yeah, just open up on itself. So I'm tasting a little more roundedness in it, which is quite nice. There's a bridge between the acidity and the finish, and that bridge is that caramel characteristic. Yeah, and lots of yellow fruits, fleshy yellow fruits, yellow plum, that type of stone fruity type thing. Let's go back to the natural. More wine. Is it a coffee that I would buy? No. Why? I'm just not a natural coffee fan, and this doesn't have things within it that really want me to commit to purchase. So let's go to the third and final one. So third and final one, a little bit more prominent. See now of its acidity. That's not a bad thing. I think this would make a really beautiful filter coffee. And should I buy any of the coffees on this table today, I would have a preference to 7824. Thanks for watching the video today. I hope it's been an informative way of seeing how I would assess some coffees for purchase. I hope you've enjoyed me tasting the way through the coffees. Do let me know if there's anything that I could do to improve. I hope you have a good day.